There are a lot of horror games in Roblox, some definitely scarier than others. But today I wanna make one myself to see just how hard it is to make an actually scary game. The idea is that the game is gonna have two parts. In the first part the player will be in a house and will need to find a way out, and in the second part there will be some kind of a maze where the player will have to avoid a monster. So I started by making a basement, but you might look at it and say that it's not even that scary. But how about now? Now, a lot of you said that in the previous video I used the swoosh sound way too many times, and I'm a man of my swoosh, so I'm gonna replace it with something else. Also, thank you for 1k subs. And here's the house. I decided to make everything piss yellow because, you know, that's a pretty scary color. Lastly, I made another floor with a bedroom and a bathroom and put some trash around. But I wanna do a cool cutscene in the future where the player jumps out the house. So I made the outside of the house, and to be honest it would have taken me like half the time if I did it in Blender, but that's besides the point. After that I made this outside section that will lead to the second part. After that I made this blue building where the second part will take place. And to finish it off I made this interior and it was done. But we don't have a monster yet. Well, now we do. This thing is definitely gonna give me nightmares. Not because it's scary, because it looks very bad. And it's also stolen. But I mean, it doesn't really look like the original at all, so I think I'm fine. After that I rigged it and weight painted it, and yay, now we have him in Roblox.
You need to leave!
I swear to God this wasn't even on purpose. But now it's time to make the game playable. I started by adding some parts that will act as a waypoint for the camera, because it's gonna be a point and click type game. At least for the first part. I also want some rotation, so I made a bunch of these guys that really only help with detecting the input. So to actually rotate the camera, I rotated it. But now it's time for some movement. Firstly, I needed a way to detect which way the player wants to go, so to do that I made some red parts that will help me with that. But those red parts alone won't be enough, so I made some raycasts that fire from the camera. Now, if you don't know what a raycast is, it's kinda just the act of sending out an invisible ray from a vector 3 point in a specific direction with a defined length. Once cast, you can detect if the ray hits a base part or a terrain cell. And that base part is what we're interested in. Because if the ray hits a red part, then I know which way the player wants to go. I also added a fade transition, and this is how it was looking. After that I added some more green and red guys, and the basement was completely done. Lastly, I made a crowbar that the player can pick up. But now let's add some cutscenes. I started by duplicating one of the red parts and making it yellow. I also added some values inside of it. Namely a requirement value, which is the item that's required to be in the player's inventory for the cutscene to trigger. A cutscene name, which is the name of the cutscene, which will be important later. And an error message, which is the message that will be displayed when the player doesn't have the required item. After that I added a module script that will hold all the cutscenes, and to finish it off all I had to do is add these 5 lines of code and it was completely done. Oh, I forgot to make the cutscene. For this cutscene I decided to just make a simple black fade, but for some reason the module script was messing up the camera, so I decided to just make the cutscenes be a part of the main script. And with that the basement section was done. After that I moved on to the dining room, which honestly wasn't that exciting. What is exciting though is the cutscene that came after. I started by making the path that the camera will follow and twinning the camera. But now it's time to add the monster. I made the animation for the monster, which plays when the cutscene starts and stops when the player is around halfway through the cutscene. I wanted another cutscene for when the player goes to the second floor, so I just stole the code from the first cutscene and it was done. Except that's way too boring, so I added our beloved monster to kinda peek at the player a little bit. You know how I mentioned that I wanted to make the player jump out the house? Well, turns out animating something like that is fucking hard, so it didn't turn out the best, but I mean I tried. After that I made yet another cutscene, which is just the player walking away from the house to the other mysterious building. But the player can just breeze through the whole game in like 2 minutes, so I scattered around some keys that they have to find. But now it's time for the second part. I started by scattering around some triggers that will help me move the monster. Once that was done, I made a function that actually moves it and changes around the triggers. Lastly, I made some animations for the monster and it was ready to go. Except the player just can't die. I mean, I can literally get as close as I want and it won't kill me. So I added a jump scare, which is also the bad ending at the same time. After that, I made 4 other endings along with a secret room, so make sure to check out the game if you want to see them. Lastly, I made the main menu with this trophy section and finally finished the buttons. But there's one more thing we need. The badges. Thankfully, adding them was pretty straightforward and it only took like 3 minutes. And after that, all I had to do was award the badge when the player gets any of the endings. And that's the end of the video. Now, is the game scary? I mean, I did jump sometimes when getting unintentionally jump scared, so it gets an approval from me. But anyways, thank you for watching, I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to play the game, the link is in the description.